I'm Carol Owens, and this is Stockbridge Updates. I'm so thrilled to report that we had our 32nd annual Christmas on Main Street, first weekend in December, it always is, and it was wonderful. I spoke to 2 shopkeepers this morning, and they had an absolutely record year. Speaking of records, the little record shop that sells the old vinyls has done so well that they're buying the shop across the way. And the folks that ran Heritage Jewelry for all these years are moving to France. I want to go. Okay, here at home, there's so much talk about the new pieces of legislation that the Healy administration promoted and got passed. One is for an increase in clean energy, and the other is for an increase in affordable housing. It's interesting. Folks very often talk about the content. How many more affordable houses? How much money are they going to spend? What other changes are they going to make? Where are they going to put all those solar panels? Where are they going to put all those wind turbines? I'm really interested in an entirely different thing, and that is the propensity in new laws. And I can even start back as far as the Affordable Housing Trust legislation, where the shift was away from local government, away from local bylaw control, to the state. You know who hath the steerage of our course? Well, it may not be us, but I have a wonderful person to talk to about it. My guest is Laura Dubester. She is the current chair of the Stockbridge Green Committee, but for many years, she was co-director of ecotechnology, and I'm going to put the question to her. Hey, Laura.
Hi there. It's nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. What do you think about this shift in control?
I think that we all have to really work together. I mean, clearly the local voice is incredibly important.
Yes.
And that is different community by community, and Western Massachusetts has its own identity, and our land and our resources are our asset. Mm-hmm. Our environment is our asset, and we care about the environment, and that's the most important thing that we have, really. Its beauty, its scenic beauty, the resources, why we're protecting it. So on the one hand, I think I applaud the administration for being committed to being self-reliant and to using our resources wisely. And on the other hand, I think they need to obviously take more into account of ways to do it that don't sort of walk all over the people.
Impinge on our rights. You know, I don't know if I'm right about this, so now you correct me because you're in the position of expert. It seems to me that trees are oxygen producers. Didn't I learn that in elementary school? Why would we cut down trees to put up solar panels? Here's what concerns me. They did a practical map of where in the state of Massachusetts we could put sufficient solar panels and sufficient wind turbines to produce the electricity we need. If we're one of the top 2 choices for where to put all these clean energy, renewable energy mechanisms, are we going to cut down forests?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's enough evidence and I think those analyses have been done, which really compare the solar output from taking down a tree to the carbon sequestration of that tree. And in most of those analyses, it makes more sense to leave the tree.
Good.
So
I'm going to remember that.
Well, and someone's going to have to fact check me on that as well. But in most cases, it doesn't mean that a tree is never going to be cut down for a solar field or something like that. But that state forest or Stockbridge lands like that would be clear cut or something like that for solar panels doesn't make sense. I think there are other issues with farmland. There are really issues around compatible uses. And everything, I mean, for the 30 years that I worked in this field, it's all around siting.
Yes.
Everything is around siting and having good siting guidelines and having the stakeholders at the table.
Yeah, and stakeholders at the table. Underscore those words, write them in big capital letters, because we don't want to approve and support anything that keeps us from that table. You know, it's not just the aesthetics. I completely applaud what Laura said, but it's also our economy. People come here for what they can't find there. We are not urbanized. We have lots of open space. And trading those things that make us unique, that make us South Berkshire, for a solar panel or a wind turbine may not be the best thing. And you know, I don't know if this is in your bailiwick or not, but in the Affordable Housing Act, they are mandating almost, I want to watch my words, but certainly allowing what we have determined to be unbuildable land now to be buildable by right. And I worry about density. Is density an issue with the environment, or?
That I can't really speak to it. I want to go back to the one issue, which is that I think we're going to do an acronym, NIMBY. And not in my backyard when it comes to wind turbines and solar panels. And I would not be honest with myself or with anyone to say that I think that no one should ever have to view a solar panel or a wind machine. I think that we have to do our part, and that we can't be so much into only the scenic beauty and only the aesthetics if you look at the rural areas of Europe and a lot of other places, they've been able to accommodate and embrace the renewable energy. Or Chimney Peak, you can look at that, where they were so visionary to put up a wind turbine on their ski resort where people can see it and get used to it and realize that it's not going to hurt, and now they're energy independent virtually with conservation and renewables. They invested their own money. They didn't use any grants, and they'll be able to make snow and continue on. So there are definitely trade-offs and compromises that we all have to make.
I want to go back to what Laura said before, and that is, we need a seat at the table. These things should not be mandated by the state. They should be negotiated with the municipalities. And keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. We want to be at that negotiating table to balance all the criteria. Let me move, speaking of, as chair of the Green Committee.
Green Communities Committee.
Green Communities Committee. You have done a great deal. Tell us a little bit.
Okay, well, the Green Communities Committee was established by the Select Board probably in 2014, 2015. And at that point, there was a program offered by the Department of Energy Resources where if a community agreed to, or there were carrots and sticks. So there were requirements to become a green community, and then the reward was that you could apply for grants. And the biggest effort the biggest requirement is really that the town commit to reducing its energy consumption only in town operations and facilities by 20% within 5 years. So we have done that. I think we're at about 30% with buildings and vehicles.
30% reduction.
30%, about 30% reduction in our energy consumption, which saves tremendous amount of money for the taxpayers and makes the buildings more comfortable and healthier. And in addition, one of the other requirements is that we look at ability to site solar, either research, development, or actual solar panels, which the town did. We have a solar facility. It's a partnership of Stockbridge, National Grid, and the developer Amoresco, and it's at the Old Town landfill. So here we are generating more kilowatt hours than we use of electricity.
Wow.
We don't get it all free because we're a junior partner. We gave the land, but we get a little bit of a break on our electricity, and eventually we'll own it. And we agreed to put in a purchasing policy where we'll purchase the most fuel-efficient vehicles when they're available. So now we have a hybrid police cruiser, which the police department loves because they, when they're idling, it's not using any gas.
Oh.
So that, and they wanted to buy another one, but during COVID there was supply chain issues.
Someone told me, and maybe you can explain it, that with hybrid vehicles, when you press the brake, you can be recharging. Explain that. I think that sounds so cool.
I think it's just called regenerative braking. I don't know how it works. I'm an armchair. I'm not an engineer. I'm really an armchair environmentalist. When I went to school, there really weren't courses or classes for me. And my expertise would be really in the built environment and in heat loss in buildings, not so much the trees and the frogs. But that's okay. But I understand about energy.
Now, speaking of, what about the street lights? That was a very big deal.
That's a big deal. It's fantastic. It took a while. Things are slow. That's what I've learned. I always knew it, but it's important to keep that in mind. But we decided to purchase all of the above ground streetlights that had been owned by National Grid, not the downtown ones. And that was a big decision because the question was, can a small town like Stockbridge manage to own streetlights? What happens? What happens? What happens? And I think we finally realized that we could, first of all, subcontract out the maintenance, or if someone hit a pole or if there was an accident, really it meant that the utility wouldn't touch the streetlight. They're going to deal with everything else. So we bit the bullet. We purchased those streetlights, not the underground ones that are in town offices and downtown, because they're underground and that was more risky to do. So National Grid still owns them. We replaced them with LED streetlights that are a certain temperature, which is much more favorable to the animals and to the night skies. And we've cut our street lighting cost about in half, which is great, and consumption and cost, which is terrific.
You know, I grew up in Minnesota, and during the school year, I was in the city, but it was a very small city or a big town. And in the summers, we had 65 acres on a lake in northern Minnesota, and it was pitch black dark at night. And even in what I'm calling a city was a population of 500,000, which is not real big, and we didn't have a lot of streetlights. So I'm used to dark and light, and I'm used to a big contrast. And I wonder, what's your feeling about how we're lighting up outer space, for Pete's sake?
I think we have big problems on the planet, for sure. I haven't really focused on that. But
you know, I'm wondering if it interferes with animals' understanding of when they eat, when they sleep. I mean, I don't know. I know that it greatly disturbs me, and I'm very, very grateful that I live on a street with no streetlights, because I can get a measure of dark. But I think that's kind of an environmental thing, and I think you're right. It impacts many, many things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was just listening yesterday to a news report about the light in the oceans and how the coral reefs are impacted by light because of the predators and prey and the
Yes.
balance.
Yes.
So light is something that we're all sensitive to.
Yeah, I think that's right. So what is the Green Community Committee going to do in the future? What's your next goal?
Okay, we are small and mighty committee, and I want to let you know who the names in a minute.
Yes,
but
please.
we're looking at becoming the climate leader, a community which is a climate leader, where we'll have more carrots and more requirements. But I think we've almost completed most of them. And once we're a climate leader, we can actually then apply for grant funding to put solar on our buildings, and that would again produce more renewable energy and directly save costs. So it looks like there's more grant funding, and really being a climate leader means that we're doing things that are going to happen anyway, but we're just ready to be the first. And that the commitment that we, I think, made at town meeting last year was that we wanted to be in line with the state goal of zero.
Net zero by 2050.
By 2050, thank you.
That's my pleasure. So please tell us who's on your committee so we can thank them.
Okay, Tim O'Brien,
Okay.
Steve Averbuk, if I've pronounced his name correctly, Pat Flynn, Miles Moffett, myself, and then Michael Canales comes to all the meetings. And Mike Buffoni takes care. He's not formally on the committee, but he really contributes a lot by maintaining it's called the Massachusetts Energy Insight. So all of our energy consumption in all of our buildings is downloaded to a computer, so we can see it and we can analyze it for every building, for every account.
Terrific.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Okay, so Mike Buffoni is our superintendent of water. We have a water and sewer department, and is the superintendent of sewer. I've forgotten his name. And Michael Canales is our town administrator.
And the other committee members, I mean, what's really so exciting is that the goal really is to have thoughtful people who can sit and listen to each other and have intelligent questions and make good recommendations, be in the same room with different perspectives. And we have people who have expertise in energy, in the environment, in health, in natural history and the environment. So it's and architecture. So we have a really, I think, a fantastic committee.
I think part of it is your attitude. The attitude of a chair of any committee, I think, is so important in the smooth running, and I'd like to congratulate you on your attitude.
Thank you.
You know, I'm kind of going to move to attitudes in general. I acknowledge and understand that not in my backyard is an obstacle to getting certain things accomplished. With affordable housing, they want 65,000 units, and they want that in 5 years. These are laudable goals. There are folks that are categorized fairly or unfairly as NIMBY, not in my backyard. I don't care what you're trying to accomplish. I want my little piece of property, my piece of heaven, not to be interfered with. I recognize all that. The answer is not for the state to take over control from the municipalities. There are 351 of them in this state. They all have personalities. They all have goals of their own. They all know where they wish to be going economically and in livability. They all deserve a place at the table. I'm begging the state, negotiate, don't mandate. And I'm saying to the voters, don't look at the carrot and say, oh, yay, 65,000 more affordable houses, how terrific, and be blind to what you're giving up, because both will impact you and your neighborhood and your village. So I hope everybody's at that table. Now, we've got a couple minutes left. And what really is on your environmental wish list? Because I know you, aside from being a chairman and aside from being a director, and you have personal beliefs and personal values that motivate you. And I'm interested in that.
My personal, what really motivates me in some ways is wanting to demonstrate the positive. And I think that's what we as a community can do instead of, we have convictions and everything, but it's really in our homes and in our businesses. There's so many incremental steps that we can take that protect the environment, that make us feel good. I don't think there's anything wrong with virtue. And if it makes you feel good to have a solar panel on your house, beautiful. If it makes you feel, if you're recycling and doing your part, and then you feel good about doing that, that's fantastic. I think that's their intrinsic motivations, their extrinsic motivations. But I think there are things I'm encouraged by I think it's connecting the dots is what's really important. When people see that having a pollinator garden or planting native plants attracts the butterflies and helps keep the lands healthy and helps at the same time reduces the use of pesticides or chemical fertilizers. All of these things, maybe individually, it's hard to say they make a difference, but collectively they make a difference. And I'm not saying that we can all do it as individuals, but I think that that's really where the leadership comes in a lot of ways.
I think that's wonderful. I hope that we can put at the bottom of the screen, perhaps, Carole, Carole, at stockbridgeupdates.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear the things you object to. I'd love to hear the things that, as Laura said, that you're comfortable and pleased doing. I think all of those can be contributions to Stockbridge Updates and can start to build a community voice. And I just want to say that I don't respect the folks with all the answers. I respect the ones with the best questions. Thank you so much for joining us.